And now what I want to do is I find the white a little bit hard to read from the background. So I'm going to right click and bring up my blending options. If you click on just the little sidebars here, you're only going to see what happens with the default. So you want to actually click on the word. So I'm going to click on the word, drop shadow, and try to bring my box over as much as I can. If you want to see it at its true value, just hit normal. You have a whole bunch of options here you can play around with. Right now the opacity is at 75. I'm going to move it up to 100%. And you can play around with your distances if you want it to look like it's really far away, or you can keep it nice and tight. You can play with your spread, so how big is it? Sometimes that can look a little too dramatic. Maybe you want to just move down the opacity at this point when you're happy. Maybe you want to work with an outer glow. So I'm going to again change it from screen to normal. I'm going to click on this little color and make it a dark gray. Bring up my opacity so you can see where it's going. Bring up the spread. Bring up the size. And from this point, if I think it's a little too dramatic, maybe I want to change the color. So I'm going to move this box over. And the really cool thing about this is if I move my mouse over onto the canvas, I can actually color pick part of the canvas. And then I'm going to just make it blend in a little bit better. Now I'm going to show you how you can warp text and create text on a path. I'm just going to delete this for now. And right now I picked a shape. So I picked a circle as the ellipse tool. If I hold shift, I can make a perfect circle. If I don't hold shift, then I get an oval. So right now I have this being set as a shape. If I want, I can select a path. So I'm going to create a perfect circle. Then I need to go back to my text tool, and I'm just going to click over on the path. So right now when you see that little jagged line, if you click, that tells you that you can start working on the path. And I'm going to write Winnipeg. Highlight my text, change my size up, 300, change it to bold, rotate it, Control T brings up your transform box. I can move it over once I'm in my box. If I want to adjust the size again, just highlight over top of it. You can also do this with your character box if you prefer working with a character box. Highlight over top. I'm going to add more space. I'm also going to change my font. Again, you can rotate it. If you want to change the orientation of your path, hold Control or Command on a Mac, and you'll get these little double arrows. So what I can do is I can actually go and change the orientation of where I want my font to go. And then again, you can move it around your canvas. So you could essentially have writing on the top, writing on the bottom, creating a circular text. And the next one is I'm going to show you how to warp text. I prefer working with paths when I'm doing curved text, but here's another way to do it. And again, for both of these, I'm just going to put some blending options, at least a drop shadow, so you can see it a little bit better. And if you love your effect, you can actually right click and duplicate your effect, copy layer style, and then paste layer style. and both of them have the same effect. It's pretty handy. So now that I have my top font, and if I turn the eye off, I can hide it. And if I turn the eye back on, I can see it. Now what I'm going to do now is click over on my text tool, and up at the top here I have a warp box. I'm going to choose an arc. I can adjust the bend. I can adjust horizontal distortion. Maybe you want to adjust your vertical distortion. You can play around with a lower arc, bulge, shells, fish eyes, rises, and so forth. So let's just put that back on an arc, and I'll put the distortions at 0. And this just gives you an idea of how it arcs the text versus just putting the text onto a curve. Now make sure when you are working with arcs or when you are working with curved text on paths is that you want to make sure that your tracking and kerning is always appropriate, especially if you're doing double line text. And I hope that makes sense. Enjoy.